South Africans in the U.S. are taking pride in the accomplishments of the anti-apartheid icon. Ndimyake Mwakalyelye joins us now to tell us more. Ndimi.
Well, thank you, Vincent. Yes, South Africans living here in the United States and in the diaspora are celebrating the life of their late leader the best way they can. For a small group here in Washington, it was by his statue outside the South African embassy. Despite the dark, cold and rainy night, this small group of South Africans sang their hearts out in celebration of the life of a man they called father at a candlelit vigil outside their embassy. Margaret Pirakisi, draped in her country's flag, says they just had to do something to honor the memory of Nelson Mandela.
We love him and he will always be our father.
He means a lot, a lot. As a father, he's everything to me.
Fists pumped high in the air, copying the pose of Mandela's statue just above them, they sang songs of freedom and liberation. Many of those gathered here experienced apartheid, either directly or indirectly through their families. Lontlahla Kaba says she thanks Mandela for helping to bring an end to the discriminative policy.
He fought for us a lot, and the reason why I'm here today is because of him.
He's been in jail for 27 years, and he was fighting for the freedom.
Mandela's humility and capacity for forgiveness, particularly for his oppressors, earned him not only a Nobel Peace Prize, but the admiration and pride of his fellow citizens.
Most people say he fell from the sky, which I would like to believe because he's almost like an angel. He's done so much for the country.
Nono Buthelezi says he inspired her.
I learned to be strong, to be a strong black woman. So that's what I learned from him. Thank you. And I will remember him. I'll miss him all the time.
While mourning Mandela, they remembered others in the trenches with him, battling apartheid, like the late Oliver Tambo, former president of the African National Congress. But on this day, the group's focus was on the man affectionately known as Madiba, whom they say helped bring everyone together. And joining us now for a personal perspective on Nelson Mandela is Diveena Coopan, a South African filmmaker living here in Washington. Thank you so much for joining us and condolences.
Thank you.
Like so many people I've spoken to, especially from South Africa, your reaction was as though you knew this man personally, yet you'd never even met him. What did you do when you heard?
Well, I was playing with my child and I'd heard it on the radio and I just started crying. And we'd all been preparing ourselves for a long time for this coming, but the shock of it still just hits you. You know, it's like it really is like the loss of a family member, like a father, like they said in that segment.
Tata, as they called him.
Yeah.
Why do you think people connected with him so deeply, yet, you know, to them, he was just somebody they saw on TV, like most of us have?
Yeah.
What was it about him that made you feel like this loss?
Well, beyond the obvious of what he's done for the country and what he's done for all of us, and how his journey helped bring us out into a different place to realize something that we never thought would ever have been possible. His personality, he had this charisma, this charm, that he acted as if he was your Tata, you know? He had what you'd see on TV when he'd meet people. It was as if everybody he met was someone personal and someone whom he'd loved. He effused a lot of love, and I think that's what we all connected with.
How do you think the country is going to move forward? I mean, so many people saw him as the glue that kept the peace, the hope for the future.
You know, I think there's a lot of speculation about that. And I spoke to my mom the other day and I was asking, what's it like in South Africa? How are people feeling? And she said, you know, the closest thing she can describe it to, besides the sadness and the relief that he's no longer suffering, is that feeling that a strong sense of unity. And she said the last time she felt that strong was actually in '94 during the elections, when we were standing in line, waiting to go and vote, that sense that everybody came together and was going to be okay. And I think that is, if his death can bring that out again, then I think in order to honor him, living by those lessons will be something that will carry us forward.
One of the things that Mr. Mandela championed was AIDS. His foundation really has put that as a priority. You're currently working on a documentary about this topic, and of course South Africa is labeled as having the highest rates of AIDS in all of Africa. What kind of impact do you think his attention to that issue has made on it?
You know, and the film is actually set in his home province of the Eastern Cape itself. Okay. And, you know, to begin with, Madiba didn't do as much as people wanted him to. And a lot can be said about that, but he had inherited an apartheid country and was dealing with so much in terms of that. But to begin with, a lot of people were not happy with what happened. But after leaving office, what he did from then onwards has been amazing. He assigned his prison number 46664, and that became the logo and the motto for AIDS awareness and fundraising and campaigning. And I think his coming out, the most powerful piece was when he openly spoke about his family member, I think it was his grandson, who passed from HIV, from AIDS. Right. And that made a huge impact on the country, just as a small example of it.
We only have a few seconds before I have to let you go, but you almost met him, but you didn't quite. Tell us a little bit about how that happened.
He came to my town of Tonga. It's a small little town where during the apartheid days he's hidden away. And the dance group that I was a part of performed for him, so I almost had a chance to meet him there but wasn't around. And then he came to my university and I got to give a personal wave, and he gave me a personal wave back. And that's the highlight. That was the highlight.
Up?
A little,
yeah.
Always.
You're making me tear up. Let me let you go before we all start crying. Diveena Coopan is a South African filmmaker living here in Washington, and she joined us on Africa 54.